you're in the Career Cafe, and this afternoon our guest is Dr. Craig Maier, who has many years' experience as a university professor in the US, particularly in the specialist area of corporate and leadership communication. And Craig is just the man this afternoon to talk to us about the whole business of setting up your own company. Craig, what has been your experience of students talking about startups?
Well, I think that I'm hearing a lot more of that, a lot more interest in that in the past couple of years. I think that it could be for a number of reasons. One is that many students are looking at their parents, their older siblings, and they're looking at the types of careers that they have and their career trajectories, and they're saying, having a formal 9 to 5, a traditional 9 to 5, 40-hour-a-week job, working for a single company, that's just not something I'm really interested in doing. I also think, what do they want instead? I think they want more freedom and flexibility. They want to be able to control when and where they're working, and they want to. And I think I think there's that. I also think that because of the economy, with all of the uncertainty in the economy, people are very concerned about being downsized, and the instability of the labor market. As a result, they're saying, well, if I can't depend on a traditional employer to keep me employed for longer than a year or two, I'm going to go off on my own and make my own path. And so they're looking in the direction of entrepreneurship. I was actually really shocked. I had a class of 40 students, and I was shocked about how many of those students said that they did not want to have a traditional 40-hour-a-week job. They wanted to be independent. They wanted to work freelance or have some other way of having a career, which was really remarkable to me. I think maybe as many as half had mentioned at least a passing interest in that.
Oh, that's an extraordinary number. In a sense, the pandemic may well have led more people to have this type of thinking, but also something you mentioned earlier, that the traditional notion of working for a company securely for the whole of your career is by no means as secure as it used to be. And hence being independent might strike people as a safer option nowadays. It sounds odd, but that seems to be where it's going. But yet, if we want this independence and we want to stand on our own 2 feet, what sort of things should those young people be thinking of to set themselves a strong foundation?
Well, I think that they really need to know many of the things that we talk about in coaching. They need to understand what they're really good at, and what they're really interested in. And they need to be thinking about ways in which they might be able to make money at that. There's in business planning, you can think about 3 different circles of what am I really good at, what am I really interested in doing, and what are people going to pay me for? And and at the union of those 3 circles, that's where your business can be. And sometimes it can take a little bit of doing. And one of the things that I often talk with students about is they need to be talking with a lot of different people, and they need to be very clear about what they want to do. Again, just before we started to record, I was talking about a young woman I was teaching, and she said that what she really wanted to be was a wedding photographer. And particularly, we kind of pushed around a little bit. She said, in addition to that, I think I would really like to be, a international wedding photographer. A place where we could travel, go to different places. I would take photographs of the event and so forth, and I would be able to have a lot of the things that I wanted. I wanted to be able to travel. She wanted to be able to travel. She wanted to be able to take pictures. She enjoyed being around people and celebrating significant milestones in their lives, and she thought that would be a really interesting thing to pursue. And that's interesting on a number of levels. One of the things too to keep in mind here is, and again, as we were talking, a lot of times when we think about entrepreneurship, our minds go straight toward technology startups. And that is obviously wonderful. That is, there's a lot of money in that, but that only speaks to a very small subset of entrepreneurs. There are lots of different entrepreneurs out there doing lots of really interesting things, and you don't have to have a multi-billion-dollar business, or an IPO on a major stock index to be successful. You can have a small boutique in a city. You're an entrepreneur. If you are opening a barbershop, you're an entrepreneur, right? If you are starting up your own coaching practice, you are an entrepreneur, right? There are lots of different avenues that you can explore. And so what we talked about is first of all, understanding that, right? What she wanted to do was to be an entrepreneur. And then we asked, well, what do we need to be doing in order to get there? And we talked about, okay, well, what types of skills will I need to have to be a wedding photographer? Well, obviously you need to know photography. Yeah. And very well. How are you going to get those skills? You might need to know a little bit about marketing, and you might need to know a little bit about, accounting and finance, or at least understand how to get that assistance, right? And so, that's the thing. It's, how am I getting better at those skills? If I want to be a writer, right, a freelance writer, how do I find a way to develop my writing skills so that people will pay me for that, right? Sure. And also, I think another key aspect of that is networking, right? Who am I talking to, right? Where are the opportunities? And I think that's also really important. Who am I talking to that can tell me, well, what is life as a freelance wedding photographer, right? What is that life like, right? Where do how do I book clients? How do I structure things? If I'm packaging myself, how do I do that, right? And all these things are not, they're not large, right? They're not, you don't have to get a degree in it necessarily, although sometimes it might help, right? But it's being able to think about, where are my information deficits? Where are my skill deficits? One of the books that I often work through with students is "What Color Is Your Parachute?" It is a very popular book. I know it's very popular in the United States. It might be popular in Britain and elsewhere. But there's a chapter in that book about starting your own business. And what you do is you think about, okay, what are all the skills that I need? You list all that out, skills, and then you say, okay, what are all the skills that I have? And then you subtract the second list from the first, and that comes up with all the skills that you need, right? And those are things that maybe you can develop on your own, but there might be other things you might need help for. So if you are not interested in, or are really good at finance, well, then maybe what you need to do is you need to find someone who can help you, right? You need a good financial advisor at some point, right? And so that's that's an interesting thing to think about. Another thing to think about is to recognize at the outset of the process, there you want to think about it as being more of a creative, playful experience. In the design world, we talk about rapid prototyping, and the idea about this is that you don't want to have one idea for a business. You might want to have three or four, right? What are the things that might really interest you? And what are things that you might be really happy doing? And you have a list of these things, and knowing that some of these things might not work out, right? You might get in halfway and you say, this isn't really something that I want to do. I'm going to switch to the next one on my list. Or maybe this is not something I really want to do right now. But maybe there's something else that I want to explore more fully right now. That's easier for me to do, right? And just to keep that sort of playful, creative approach.